Hi, Sunny sir. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. It's my pleasure talking to you. It's always my pleasure. And just call me Sunny. Sir makes me look much older than I think I am. So let me just live in that oblivion of being young.
Great, Sunny. So I think I'm very excited to have you on the podcast, majorly because I am curious about this whole new world of Web3, Metaverse, crypto, NFTs coming together, and also fitness and movement in general, moving towards the Web3 space and coming together in a way, right? Through Move to Earn. Now, before I get into the questions and talk in depth about your startup, which is Zippy, I'll give you the audience a brief intro about you as to what you're doing and what you've done before, and I think you can add on to that. So, you're the co-founder of Zippy, which is essentially a move to earn platform, a metaverse for runners, and you've been a serial entrepreneur as well, and you've been an innovation leader. You have lots of consulting experience, IT experience, and you bring that into the mix. Apart from that, I think Zippy is also the Your Story Tech 50 company, which I went through, and that is the most exciting bit because Zippy is coming from India, and probably I've seen a lot of these move to earn platforms and apps coming from some place in the US or the UK. So this is the most exciting bit, especially for India. So on that note, sir, I'll hand it over to you to take this introduction forward and shed some more light on your journey and even Zippy.
Yeah. No, thanks. I think you said it all, but just to kind of give a quick introduction, I've been working for about 12, 13 years, as you already know. Most of my time was spent in technology. In fact, all of it is spent in technology. I did multiple things, started my career as a management consultant for about 6 years with a couple of firms, then did my first startup that you also referred to, which is military to corporate. I don't know how many of you know about people who retire from Army, Navy, and Air Force. They retire pretty young and they need a career, right? So while platforms like LinkedIn and Naukri and all these platforms are there and they're doing good job, but we felt that there's a need to have a vertical platform for these retiring officers and JCO, junior commissioned officers and non-commissioned officers from Army, Navy, and Air Force. So created a platform for that. That's what I did for about 3 odd years.
Okay.
Both my co-founders are ex-military, and therefore we could kind of connect the dots between the military side of the world and my experience, the civilian side of the world or the corporate side of the world. Military to corporate continues to be India's #1 veteran hiring platform. So it's pretty much synonymous with what it does. So did that. Then I joined some of the leading corporate companies. Was an innovation leader and a breakthrough initiatives leader, which was nothing but a fancy name for entrepreneur within the large organization, right? So led a lot of programs from concept to cash, the whole cycle. Okay. And one thing that was constant in all my career and all my life has been fitness. Whatever I'm doing in my office hours, but there is always one constant, after office hours. I generally used to quip about this, that most of the people spend their time in the bar. I spend my time on the barbells. So that's kind of captures,
awesome.
What I did. So I wanted to also make sure, always I was looking for something that kind of combines my passion of running and fitness in general with the technology or the power of technology that I know through my day job. And that's where Zippy came in. It's the culmination of two of my interests, which is the scale of technology and how technology can really solve things at scale and in a very cost efficient way. Plus with fitness, how fitness can then help people live more fuller lives. So both of these come together in Zippy, and that's my next big adventure.
I think very interesting point you raised, because you love probably you are into fitness and you love tech as well. Something I can relate to because I've also been running for a long time. It's been more than 12 years, and also the fact that I'm from a tech background. I love gadgets and tech and stuff like that. So my question to you is the concept of Zippy. How did it come about? As in, what was the brainstorming thing you went through, and what was the first principle thinking you went through? Probably that's the better way to put it, to come up with Zippy.
Yeah, I think they were it's a great question, right? Kind of forces me to think through this. But there were two sort of stories happening parallelly, right? One is during the pandemic, especially, right? While, for a very long time, you couldn't go out and run, with people in the parks, so on and so forth, right? So you were kind of every one of us was at, locked, in our respective homes. And I always had a treadmill, and I used to run on a treadmill, but it was always very quick runs, right? 10-minute warm up before I do some intense, workout. And I realized that while treadmills are convenient and comfortable, but they're extremely boring as such, right? Treadmills are known as treadmills, and there's a reason for that, right? I mean, treadmills perhaps are one of those bit of hardware pieces that sell the largest in their own category. For example, treadmills are the largest selling exercising equipment, both for domestic and commercial use, right? Okay. Every year, treadmills worth $4 billion are bought by people, right? And it's all incremental sales, right? 20-25% of American households do own a treadmill, right? And in India, I mean, just think of it this way, right? Let's forget the data, but if anybody is thinking of putting together a home gym, the first almost consideration for them is to, hey, let me just buy a treadmill, right? Okay. Because at least I can run. So as I spend more time on the treadmill, I realized that while they are they kind of help me still run and train, but they were getting extremely boring. I mean, you could always watch something on your phone, etc. But those are all very unilateral experiences, right? I mean, you're just kind of interacting with the app and it stops there, and it's still not a social experience. So, that's where the idea of Zippy came in. Essentially, we started with treadmill running and indoor running in particular, right? So I always had this view that, what if I'm able to see a digital twin of myself, an avatar of myself on a bigger screen on my phone, iPad, laptop, etc. Who is that avatar is in lockstep with my real self in Web3 world, as we call it, IRL, in real life. Okay. Right? So whatever I'm doing on the treadmill, I'm running faster, he goes faster, I go slower, he goes slower, and all of that. It started with that basic premise. On top of it, I wanted to add some social angles just to see that, like you play video games or console games, that there are a lot of players there. Think of it like PUBG, right? You're interacting with them, chatting with them, you're kind of going on the missions together. And, I wanted to sort of bring in that aspect as well, which is, hey, there are other people running that I don't know, but they're running somewhere in the world, right, on their treadmills. Right. And I'm able to interact with their avatar as if that person and me, we are running together. Think of it like Lodi Gardens in Delhi or Central Park in New York, but really breaking the shackles or the boundaries of physical world. So that is the premise where it started. Zippy is a lot more today than how it started, I think, which is true for any such consumer product, because you learn from your customers and they give you suggestions, and the tech is moving at a real fast pace. But that was the genesis of Zippy, essentially. And I had a lot of friends calling in during the pandemic and asking for what should we do? We are at home and, kind of not feeling good about this. So, I used to kind of give them a lot of advice about, hey, order a treadmill online, or just walk or jog in the home. So that's how at least the day one thinking of Zippy looked like. It's evolved a lot, and we'll talk about that, but that's what it was.
Great, great point you shared over there in terms of genesis of the whole idea. So I just want to get a little more in depth over here. So from the genesis bit, how did you go about from the concept stage to getting that first MVP out, and how did that happen? How was the journey? What was it, and what was the research, and who helped you in this journey? So would like to know more about this.
Yeah, no. So I think as in any journey, right? I think the best way to kind of get people together is who share the mission with you. And as I mentioned, in my introduction, I've been a runner and an athlete all my life, which meant that I had some understanding of other runners' mindset, aspirations, frustrations, so on and so forth. So I tapped into those people just to make sure that I understand this right, and I'm not too biased, because this could be just my experience out of the 7 odd billion people that are on the planet, right? Is it sort of more broad-based experience of runners or not? So did that. Then obviously, the first challenge was then to put it together from a tech standpoint, right? Because I mean, okay, you have this idea where you are almost combining 2-3 elements, right? Biggest is gamification or the gaming. Then there is a bit of, then there's all mobile app development. Then there's all bit of, IoT here, Internet of Things here, because you essentially want to transmit your real life speed or kinematic data to your avatar, right? Which you want to give to via the Zippy app. So you need to pick the speed and distance and cadence, all of that from your treadmill and give it to Zippy. Right. Or there has to be other way to do it. So there was a bit of IoT element, and we were trying to do with some bit of data analytics. So there was some sort of AI ML happening at a very small level in the beginning. But those were the disciplines that we wanted to kind of put together. Once we realized what tech stack we need and how we want to build it, at least our minimum viable product, so that we can just get it out fast and we can test it with the people across the world and kind of just get some good user feedback fast. So that's what we did. I think once we understood what we need to do, we kind of got some engineers, hired some engineers, worked with all of them, built this together we built it quite, 3.5 months from the day we thought about this. We had our MVP out with Boston Marathon route, which is in our MVP, with limited kilometers up to 5 kilometers that you could run in one loop. And you could see other non-playing characters there. These were not real people, but these were the NPCs. But it just gives you a feeling that you're not running alone and you're running with folks. Okay. So we did that, and within 3 months we were out. We also had some great partnerships. When you just do something like this, I think invariably some of the ecosystem players come in and they chip in and they help. So we had folks like North Pole Engineering from US coming in. They are one of the leading sensor makers, which makes the treadmill smart. So you can pick up the speed from any treadmill, right? So that's one relationship. Then some of the folks from Garmin and few others, right? They all came in and helped with the relationships from an IoT. They also helped us in distribution of the product. They sort of used their own channels and spoke about us, etc. So that was how it went. The first 3, 4, 5 months went. It was quickly live. We got feedback from about 2,000 people who used it, who were using it regularly till a certain point in time. Wow. And all of them gave us very encouraging feedback. Somebody liked the gamification bit of it. Somebody liked the seeing their avatar and others' avatars running in the virtual world, and that's what we then distilled all that feedback. And now what we're doing is basis that feedback and building a much larger, more sophisticated, deeper product.
Awesome. I think from what you just explained over here, I have 2 questions. Why did you choose the Metaverse as such, which we call as Metaverse for Runners, the avatar story?
Yeah.
Why did you choose that? Was there some, did you look at any other app which was doing it already, or took some inspiration from somewhere? That is the first question. And second is, how did you convince your teammates, who are now your teammates, the team and other partners, to come together to work on this concept?
Yeah, the first one was far easier than the second one, right? Getting people together, I think it's always the toughest bit, right? But just to kind of answer your first bit, I think, to be honest, my inspiration for this, right, as a first principles approach was all kind of console games that you play on PlayStation or Xbox, right? We looked at that and said that, hey, you know what? If this is possible, this should also be possible, what we are trying to do, right? And then we researched, we figured out some apps kind of doing this thing, right? There's a very good app which is primarily doing this for cyclists, right? Where you have the virtual cycle, you kind of get onto it, and then you interact with other people. You are in this virtual world, and you're not cycling outdoors, you're cycling indoors, right? On a smart trainer. So so that's something that we looked at it. So I think that was largely, but we were thinking first principles. The revolution of similar kind of companies doing different things, but in different categories. But that came much later once we were anyways into product dev, right? But the inspiration was, other categories such as gaming largely, right? So that's one. Second, I think one of the reasons why we were able to kind of get people fast was in the premise that these were all people who perhaps understood the power of fitness, right? Either they were on their own fitness journey, apart from the core skills that they had, right? Because one thing that I saw common in everybody that was started working with me is that they all shared some passion of sports and fitness, right? And as I spoke to them, spoke about this idea, spoke about what we are trying to do, it kind of resonated with them. They all said that, hey, you know what, running helped us. They all said that, you know what, Sunny, running's biggest impact was not on my physical health, it was on my mental health. And there was somebody else who was like, you know what, I anyways walk a lot. In pandemic, my health went up for a toss. So I understand it. Of course, you know, they have the tech skill, they have the product skill, they have all sort of skills. But that is one. I think once you have people who understand the domain they are getting into and they share a passion, it's kind of easy to get them on board because they then kind of empathize with you on the problem statement.
Very interesting, because I'm probably going to go through the same journey sometime later. So it's going to be learning for me as well from you. On the other hand, just wanted to understand a few things. So I've seen that when it comes to fitness, right? When it comes to running, long distance running, or even HIIT workouts, right? Or even weight training, what generally happens is people lose motivation on the way along the journey, right? They they're given the fact, they're given the picture that they'll get a long-term gain after like 6 months or 1 month or 2 months, something like that. So what I've seen that here is that in Move to Earn, we sort of get an instant gratification or instant rewards for the runs we do or stuff like that. So is the same thing which is going to happen over here at Zippy? And what is your perspective on instant rewards, instant gratification for the workout you do versus long-term gains? And does instant reward stuff help with the long-term gain as well? Your perspective?
So I think it's an interesting question. So as we learned more, right, as we spoke to more runners, I think, one of the things that I learned personally, right, apart from Zippy and this, is that when you're so passionate about a particular subject, you're also blindsided, right? You have a lot of personal biases. And I thought, the way I approach running, the way I think about running is how everybody should think or would think about running. But turned out that it was a myth that I was living in, right? Everybody had a different journey. Everybody had a different motivation, right? So one of the things that I learned during this period is that everybody wants to run and everybody runs. I mean, there are about 1 billion people around the world, Divyansh, who run, walk and jog, right, for fitness. But why is it still that we are sitting on such a health epidemic, in a sense that 70% of the deaths are non-communicable diseases, of which 50% are heart attacks, and they are largely, I'm sure it's in the news cycle, such an unfortunate news about KK, who had a cardiac arrest. Now I'm not a doctor, and therefore I don't know the reasons for it, but I know for a lot of people fitness could have helped them, right? This is in no way correlated to the sad, unfortunate incident regarding KK, but I'm generalizing it, right? Yeah. I think so. I realized that people know this, that running will help them, but they are not able to sustain a consistent running profile or consistent running behavior. All right, and one of the reasons for this is that the reward system with running, by the time it becomes a habit loop, right, where you don't need an external stimulus, is delayed. It only kicks in after certain months and days and weeks, right? I mean, when you run on day 1, you will hate it. When you run on day 10, you will still kind of not be in love with it, right? It's only after some months that you're like, oh God, I love it. I don't need anybody in the world. In fact, I don't even need to listen to the music. I just love running for the sake of it, right? But between that stage and starting the running, a lot of people attrition out, right? I'm sure you would have, being a runner, you would have seen it all across you, right? People, I'm sure a lot of friends join you on day 1 of running, and the next day they disappear, and the third day they won't even pick your phone.
100%.
Right? They will pick your phone, but
100%.
You know what I'm saying, right? So we said that, hey, every time somebody does not feel like running, and I put $1 in his or her pocket, would that change the behavior? And the answer to that is yes. Because what that does essentially is that it shifts your dopamine response. It shifts your dopamine curve, right? Which is delayed gratification. Now there's something instant. Now, this kind of motivates you to run. And this has been experimented widely across the sectors, but particularly in fitness, right? Prior to Web3 and prior to crypto tokens and coins and all of that, there are companies, and a lot of them are very successful even today, which are unicorns, right? Which all they do is that they incentivize your workout by giving you something, right?
Correct.
By giving you 40% discount on the protein powder, by giving you a 30% discount on your insurance premium, by giving you a 60% discount on the next hot health drink, right?
Yeah.
And people kind of stick on to them because I'm anyways walking. Hey, why don't I fire this app and log my steps there, or kind of share my steps there, and I'm getting something, right? I mean, I don't have to do an extra effort. So it is with that thinking, because this proves that this works. But the problem with these, or one of the limitation with these models, is that there is somebody else sponsoring that discount. For example, a corporate, which means that there's a lot of data, which could be also anonymized and kind of, aggregated, but it's still shared with someone so that they can push a discounted sale to you and say that, hey, you know what, on this you get 30-40% discount, right? So some data has to go. But with our own economy in the metaverse, we don't need to give your data to anybody, because whatever you're doing is part of the crypto and the Web3 and decentralized. And therefore, we are able to mint our own tokens and give it to you for your running. Yeah. So this works. Essentially, this has always worked. This is a new take on it, right? The move to earn.
Awesome. So from this, I have a question on the Web3 part of the side of the game. You took this decision intentionally to move to Web3 at the very start, or is that become a part of your plan later, as in when you were building Zippy? Did it become a part of your plan later, or was it from the very beginning? And secondly, what I've seen is that apps like StepN, they're growing like anything. They have $100 million profit, stuff like that going on in their company. And it's very popular across the globe as well. Now, two things here. One is there's a concept called play to earn, just like move to earn. For play to earn, I've seen that Axie Infinity, which is a game which is very popular again, it's seen its currency go down, like, because of they didn't have a good business plan and stuff like that. So how sustainable is the business model in Web3 for something like move to earn platforms like StepN, and probably if you're going to go in that direction? That is the second bit. So first is, why was Web3 a conscious decision from the very beginning, and secondly is the business model.
While you were asking me this, I was noting it down because there's so many interesting questions and I don't want to miss anything for you and for your audience. Now, one thing was, when we started, we were keeping it Web 2 and we were keeping it centralized, and it continues to be a two-dimensional metaverse. It still is two-dimensional. It will, for a very long time, will be a two-dimensional metaverse, in a sense that you won't need any AR, VR glasses. Now, one thing, Divyansh, which was very clear to us from day one, right, was that community of runners is the super glue that is going to hold it together, right? And we were always thinking of rewarding the community, but we were thinking it in a very traditional sense. Now, for example, some experience points, right? I call them fuzzy coins or something, but when you run, you have this 100 coins, you have this 1,000 coins, somebody has 10,000 coins, somebody has a different kind of an avatar, has a different skin, or it wears a different kind of a shirt, right? So we were thinking of it in that way. But as we learned more and as we sort of spoke to more users, as the whole Web3 also got mature, right? For example, Zippy was in sort of conceptualized much before a great Mark Zuckerberg made the rebrand of Facebook to Meta, right? So you can understand the kind of we were also kind of how, in that sense, right? We were also early. It's still early. It's still day one, as you would hear from everybody in the Web3 space. But that's how we started. We knew that community needs to be incentivized and we need to share something with the community, right? And as we learned, about Web3, about the whole decentralization, about cryptos, NFTs, we said that, what, we are not force fitting it, right? It seems to be the right structure from a tech stack for what we are trying to do, right? Essentially, people are going to run. Essentially, people are going to meet other people. And we are nothing without this community, right? We can build world's fanciest, grandest, bestest but if it does not give back to the community, then we are not doing justice to all those people who join us. So I think that's where the Web3 came in. It's after the launch we decided to kind of put this together, and now we are building it on, as a move to earn metaverse. So that's one bit of it, right? We learned it along the way. Now to your second question. Now I can always say that Probably, right? Zippy was the first move to earn project anywhere in the world, right?
Wow.
Because we were much prior than anybody else, which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? Good thing in the sense that it kind of gives you first movers advantage. You can think through first principles, and not so good thing in the sense that the whole awareness now sits on your shoulders, right? Because you got to make market aware. Hey, there's something like this. So in that sense, we are very happy that a couple of companies have come in and they have become successful. That kind of tells us that that customers are today aware and they know that something like this exists and they are willing to experiment with this. So it's a huge validation. And we believe that this space will be more enriched with more players, right? Because the whole thesis or ideology of Web3 is that all these assets should be interoperable to some extent, right? So, for example, if there's a runner on one of these communities, right, which is somewhere else on some other platform on some other community, there should be a way for them to also come to Zippy, right? I mean, you're a runner, right? I wouldn't want to limit you to only run in New Delhi. I mean, I would want to give you more platforms to run, and your assets should be reloadable, right? They can be reloadable. So I'm sure those frameworks will come into the place, but that's how we look at. I think one of the biggest differentiators, and our product roadmap is very differentiated than anybody else, and that's because we are runners, right? We are runners first. Then we are technologists, then we are designers, then we are product managers, then we are coders, etc., etc. I think that gives us a very interesting mindset of a runner first, right? So, as we are building, I would not like to really comment on the competition. I mean, I don't even see them as competition, to be honest. Stephen is very adjacent to what we are doing. Yes, going after run, but we have very different set of customers within the running community, right? Whether they are outdoor or indoor runners. But I think you will see, that we could collaborate far more, and we are very runner first. The features that we have in terms of analytics, one of the things is we want move to earn to be the last thing that attracts you to Zippy. Money should be a byproduct of who you are and what you're doing in Zippy. There are other features that kind of keep you glued. So even on a day when your earnings dip because that's your other question, right? Earnings will dip, they will rise depending on a lot of other factors, right? Because it's an economy, right? There's a fiscal condition, there's a monetary policy, there are externalities, but all of them will impact the value of your token on a given day, in a given second. But we want that, hey, you know what, when you come on the Zippy, no, you should not be trading. Your motivation should not be a token trading. Your motivation should be run. And that is our core philosophy of who we are at Zippy.
Awesome. So probably from what you've explained, I can imagine that we'll be looking at, something like NFTs and crypto coming into Zippy very soon. And apart from that, I had another question, because I see running when it comes to the user behavior, the runner. So there's the indoor runner and there's the outdoor runner as well, right? So you've captured the indoor runner pretty well through the app Zippy, which is going to get connected to the treadmill. What about the outdoor runner? Do you plan to tap the outdoor runner as well sometime in the future?
Now, we are already doing it, right?
Awesome.
Not in the MVP. We are, we've taken that feedback. I think the feedback that also came from runners, right? I think why we went indoor first is also to do with our genesis, because we are a pandemic company. And most of the runners were logged in, and therefore they were running indoors, right? So we wanted to give them something real quick, and that's what we did with our minimum viable product. And we also spoke again. That's the benefit of speaking to the users, right? Every runner told us, you know what, Sunny, I own a treadmill, I run on a treadmill, but don't bind me to a treadmill, right? On a good, bright, sunny day, I want to be out and run when I have time, and it's a weekend, or just I feel like running outdoors, right? Don't kind of leave us out on those days. So that is what we are doing, right? We're building features for outdoor runners as well. The only difference, as you can imagine, Devyansh, between outdoor runners and indoor runners in our kind of product thesis is that when you're running indoors, you have a visual representation of the metaverse. You can see the metaverse on your on your phone, on your personal device, laptop, which is on the laptop, etc., which is on the treadmill, etc., etc., right? When you're running outdoors, you can't see the metaverse. You can see
Correct.
it post the run, but you can't run with the phone dangling in your line of sight,
Yeah.
right? So what we are doing is that you will still get the same metaverse experience, which is the soundscapes. You are able to hear narratives. You're able to hear other users who are tapping into you through the audio. Because again, the
Okay.
behavior of an outdoor runner is that that they will always have something in your ear, right?
Yeah.
They will have a headphone, AirPods, whatnot, right? You will have a phone in your pocket on which Zippy app is fired, and all the phone sensors will give us your location, how fast you're running through the sensors in your phone. But you still have an avatar which is running in the metaverse who is mimicking you. Now there and we don't differentiate amongst the avatar of runners in terms of whether they're running indoors or outdoors. So there may be somebody running on a treadmill in New York. You're running in New Delhi, in some of the swanky roads of Lutyens, Delhi, hopefully. And but if you two people are alike in terms of your fitness journey, you can just kind of run together, talk to each other, and share experiences before the run, during the run, after the run, right? And it's moved on. So we will reward you for your good running behavior. So yeah, it is just to sort of clarify and underline this. Zippy is focused on both outdoor as well as indoor runners.
Got it. That's super.
Perhaps the only app doing that, in moved on space.
So I think you shared a great perspective on the fact that you'll be tapping the indoor runners and the outdoor runners as well. So the whole population of runners is going to get covered. Now the thing is, I've seen with a lot of Web3 projects and a lot of move to earn projects that things work when you build a great community, and also the fact that you educate your community well. So what is your plan with building a community, and what is the tool you're going to use for building that, and how do you plan to educate your community as well to grow Zippy, into a larger initiative?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, right? While we may develop the most swanky product, but we need a community to fuel it, to use it, to kind of tear it and tell us what works, what doesn't, right? Now, to do this, there are 2-3 things that we are doing. One, and this is pretty similar to any other Web3 company as well. One is that, we have started to build our Discord community. We are writing a lot of our work, right, on Medium. We are very active now on Twitter. So those are the 3 channels where we are, apart from LinkedIn, where we are engaged with our community. We also realize that we need to do a lot more than what we are currently doing in terms of reaching out to the community members. But essentially, we are rewarding the community to be with us, in a sense that extensive tokens are planned, airdrops of NFT elements are planned for our early community members. In fact, I wish I could speak about it more, but we are talking to one of the biggest running celebrities,
Wow.
and launching something together, hopefully soon, right? And those will be very limited edition of our NFTs. So that's how we are going after. We are rewarding the early set of users and community members to come on board and own a bit of the company, right? Own a bit of the product, own a bit of the bit of the ownership, and have ownership in the company. That's how we are going after it, rather than spending big bucks on traditional marketing.
Got it. So apart from that, for a Web3 company like yours, just curious to know, which platform do you think is the best to actually attract that audience? So I see Twitter, I see LinkedIn, right? I see Discord. So are you banking on these platforms, or you're going beyond and attracting the audience in a way?
I think you rightly said these are the platforms which are very, which our communities are very engaged on. Generally, Web3 folks, right? For example, Discord and Twitter and LinkedIn, a bit of other social medias like FB and Instagram. So those are the channels that we are going after. But we are also doing something. The framework is very simple. Where do runners hang out, right? If they hang out on Strava, we are trying to kind of talk to them and meet them there, right? If they generally don't hang out on Discord, right? And even I was on Discord like 3 months back, right? But everybody's kind of learning that that's where the communities hang out, right? Those who are Web3 enthusiasts as well as natives, and Twitter. So those are the channels that we are going after. I think we are yet to fall in love with any one of them. Coming from a traditional Web to enterprise space, you have different set of channels that you've always used. But I think we will go wherever our runners are, where our users are, and these seem to be the right channels for us as well. Apart from that, Medium.
And what I've seen is that, for example, in Discord, it's kind of a new thing for a lot of folks, especially millennials and older folks, and they don't understand Web3, they don't understand the conversations in Discord, right? So how do you plan to educate these folks? Education is, I think, the key to anybody adopting a Web3 platform. And if you become an education company in Web3, so essentially you are a move to earn platform. But if you educate folks better, you have a better chance of converting them into a prospective runner on Zippy. So do you have any plans for that?
Right. No, I think that's absolutely good, and not only because I mean, you incidentally mentioned old people, so I think I kind of check all the tick boxes of being old. Right. This is the fun part of working in a Web3. You generally feel very old because you're talking to really youngsters in their late teens and early 20s. I mean, there are very few, kind of late 30s and early 30s and mid 30s there. So I'm old, and therefore I empathize the problem that old people in Web3 go through. So what we are doing essentially is we're spending a lot of time on the channels where people are, right, where millennials are or where runners are. Now, for example, LinkedIn is a great platform where we are sharing a lot of our stories, right? We continue to. I think there's nothing that misses our LinkedIn page. In terms of our communication, it continues to be the page where we reach out to maximum number of people, and then that becomes a segue, that becomes a rerouter for us to kind of get some of these folks to other channels which they're not familiar with, perhaps Discord, perhaps something else. So that is how we are doing it. We are meeting people where they are, and then sort of building the on ramps and guide rails for them to come to Discord, come to Twitter Spaces, come to someplace else. So that is exactly the approach that we are taking. This is the approach that I would have been comfortable with. Now that you branded me old, but
not really. So I think you shed some great light over there on the audience bit. Now the thing is, which I've seen a lot of times, is that for Web3 platforms, the thing which is missing is trust. And there's a lot of barrier to entry because we have these wallets. We need to buy Solana token, for example, or any other token to actually enter that game. For example, in StepN, you need to buy an NFT shoe to actually earn their green Satoshi token, which they have on their platform. So how do you plan to reduce those barriers or remove them altogether? And how do you plan to build trust as well? That is the key thing.
Yeah, I think the trust bit is important, and why people don't trust a lot of Web3 projects is because there are always some sort of rug pulls happening. There is a project which is completely sort of anonymous, and you don't know who to hold accountable. Right now, as a company, we are real people with real experience and real contacts on our website. Right, I mean, we are not hiding behind a JPEG, if you will, right? I mean, you can look at us. All of us have a history of decades of work, right? So there's a reputation to us, right? And if you have a reputation on the stake, you generally would be well-meaning and within the frameworks of basic integrity, right? So that's exactly how we are building the trust. As I said, we are not people hiding behind a JPEG, right? I mean, you know us, where we live, what we have done, where we are, and all of that. And you have our email addresses and all of that, right? So that's one. Second, a lot of our information is being shared very transparently with the community, right? Whether it's through Medium, whether it's through Discord, whether it's through Twitter Spaces. Our white paper is not up on the website yet. Because we're just giving it final shape, but that will be up so everybody will know. But just to tell you, 50% of our tokens are going to be outside of the company, right? They are going to be with the community. They are going to be with the ecosystem players, right? Which is outside of founder and investor and advisors, right? So which means that from a day one, we are thinking of decentralization, but it will be progressive, right? It won't be a decentralized company on day one. I mean, no company is actually decentralized on day one, but slowly and surely we are going to give a lot of control and say to our community members. So that's how we are building trust. Now to your second question, and I think it's an important question, that how do you kind of lower the barrier to entry, right? I think, once you read our white paper and we'll do more things, There's a lot of work that we have done on this. So even if you know nothing about Web3, even if you don't have a crypto wallet, you don't know what your 12 seed phrase and all of that is. And you know what? I empathize with it, Devansh, because I didn't have all of this, and it took me time to understand all of this. Right? My
100%.
genesis is Web2. Right? I come from enterprise experience. Right? So not
Correct.
even B2C, right? B2B. So I had to have that on ramp. We don't want anybody to go through that. So we have a lot of plans. As you see our app, I want to keep them a little under the wraps. But our white paper is soon. But you will be able to see. So one thing in the defense of all crypto companies that you mentioned, right? You will need a crypto wallet if you need to earn money.
Yeah.
Right. And if you need to earn money, you need to invest money. Right. But as I mentioned, for Zippy, move to earn is the last thing that we want to kind of harp upon. It has to be there because it's our reward structure, and you will earn very handsomely for your workout, right? But because that is our theory, that gives us the freedom to have the ramps which are fiat on ramp, where you don't need to invest on day one, but you'll be able to still experience the whole app minus the money bit, right?
So one question: what is fiat on ramp? Just to clarify.
I'm so sorry. My absolute apology, Divyansh. This is what happens when you talk day in, day out the same language. You kind of assume everybody knows it. Policy. So fiat on ramp is a currency that we are familiar with, right? A USD and INR, the currencies that we interact with, right? On ramp is how do you kind of enter into the system. So if you don't have a crypto wallet, you have how you buy an app today, right? Through through just spending some money that is anyways in your wallet or UPI and all of that, right? So we are experimenting with those way of onboarding users. Basically, that's what I meant by on ramp. And as I mentioned, right, you can still one of the things that we want to do is open the app to anyone who wants to experience all the features of our app, because we are not just about move to earn, right? It's just there, right? You will earn handsomely, but there's a lot more happening here. So you'll be able to experience all of that. And the day you decide to move to earn, right, you will have to do a bit of easy on ramps to crypto and wallet, and you will start doing it. But it won't be a barrier to your entry into the Zippy ecosystem.
Correct. So you'll give a flavor of the whole ecosystem first, and probably then gradually you'll level up the users as well as they move along and with you. And from that point, what I want to know from your perspective is, do you see fitness activities and apps moving to Web3 in the future? Is that the future from your perspective? Other ecosystems as well moving towards that?
There's a bit of disturbance, so I couldn't get your question. Could you say that again, please?
Yeah. Do you see the fitness activities and other apps moving to Web3? Is that what's going to happen in the future from your perspective?
Yeah, I don't think that all the apps necessarily need to, right, decentralize or go to Web3, right? That's a question that we debated a lot at Zippy. That do we need to go to Web3? And because community is so important, and there's a utility to your avatar and what you do, so we had to do it. It's just made a logical sense for us to kind of move from Web 2 or Web 2.5 to Web 3. But a lot of projects where they don't need to, they should not, right? I mean, you really have to use your own understanding of your customers, their education behaviors, their behaviors, right? In terms of cryptos. And when I say education, I mean the crypto education, right? Yeah. Where they come from, what are their motivations, etc. No, I mean, I think even today, right, there are, out of the 100 companies on a sample basis, 99 are without any Web3 and doing awesomely well, very well for themselves. And I don't see that number. That number should not change because it's a fad, but that number will only change if companies believe that there's a value to decentralize. We certainly believe that there is value, and that's why we're doing it.
Awesome. And another interesting bit which is happening in the metaverse spaces with Meta, coming up, Facebook being rebranded to Meta, virtual reality, augmented reality, and XR mixed reality is gonna go big, right? It's already going big. So do you plan to do something on the VR front as well? Because that's the pinnacle of immersion, right? So is there any plan at your end when it comes to VR or XR probably? It's far-fetched, but yeah, just asking you. I'm curious about it. Yeah.
No, Divyansh, I get this question often, and therefore, my answer is pretty standard for this, which is this: that what we really have to see the evolution of hardware, right? AR, VR hardware. I can't be thrusting something on my users which is not today mature enough to handle the use case of running. For example, in our case, right now, as a runner, there are two, three expectations that you have, right? One, you really don't want to put too much weight on your body, right? I mean, so today headsets are not that light that you would want them to be for your use case. Then the battery life has an issue, right? Then as a runner, right? You get a lot of vibrations from the ground when you're sort of stamping on the ground while you're running, right? That will unsettle the headset. I mean, we've experimented all of this, and that's why I'm saying this. But I also know as a deep student of technology that I have been, Moore's law will come to picture here as well. The hardware will get smarter, it will get miniaturized, the cost will go down drastically in the coming years. So maybe at some point in time, when the hardware is at a level where we are comfortable with, or a runner is comfortable with, right, it would be easy for us to make that move from our current application to an AR VR application, because we are building on standard engines, gaming engines, our metaverse, which means that it's few clicks and some work for us to kind of move to AR VR ecosystem, but we will wait for hardware to kind of mature. We will not use it in current form.
Probably that can be a complementary tech to your original idea. So that's what I and another thing, you talked about the Moore's law. Can you explain the Moore's law once, so that everybody's at the same page?
I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry. So Moore's law, essentially what it says in summary is that the cost of the hardware kind of reduces by half every couple of years, right? And that's what we have seen it with hard drives. That's what we see with almost anything, right? For example, the spaces have gone up, but the spaces in the hard drive memory have gone up. And the prices are almost, they go half every couple of years. So that's essentially the Moore's law. I mean, every hardware kind of follows it. And we are very, I mean, the way I see it, at least as a student of technology, is that will also happen to AR, VR hardware.
Awesome. And now I have a very interesting question for you. So it's 2022. Where do you see Zippy, and what is your vision of Zippy in the next 20 years, 25 years, whatever? If you have a vision of that far.
I don't have that far. I'll be honest with you, but now that I can think about it, you asked me, right? I wouldn't let to disappoint and let it disappoint you and get it sort of keep it unanswered. I think the vision is very simple, Divyansh, and I will not even talk about Zippy, and I'll not talk about Metaverse and MoveTurn and all of that. Let's keep that aside, right? Here's my 20-year vision for what Zippy possibly could be, but what it should be able to help in. As I mentioned, it's unfortunate that 70% of all the deaths that happen today happen due to non-communicable diseases, of which 50% are cardiac related. And now you may not know this, Divyansh, Indians stand the highest risk of a cardiac incident than any other race. For example, if you and there's a Caucasian or an American or a Japanese at the same BMI, you have a far more risk of a cardiac incident and diabetes, 3x, 4x due to something that is known as syndrome X. It's a genetic thing with South Asians, Indians in particular, right? So we are at a highest risk in terms of getting an untimely cardiac incident, diabetes, hypertension, so on and so forth, right? So my vision is linked to this, that I don't want any person, right, to die or to have complications because of these non-communicable diseases. I want everyone to run and everyone to live a more fuller life. I always say that the biggest benefit of any physical workout is in the mental space, right? You generally feel better, you feel more generous, you feel more giving, you feel more positive, you are more energetic. So, and this is a journey that I have had. I had a trigger when I started the journey. Everybody has a trigger somewhere, right? I just want to make sure that everybody lives a better life through running. In fact, if you run, let me just give you this another data point. World Health Organization says that a regular running twice a week can cut down the risk of heart attack by 27%, cut down the risk of any cancer by 25%, and can increase the lifespan by 27%.
It's crazy.
So if somebody is living today 60 and 65 years, we can easily increase their lifespan by 30% by about 15 to 18 years as per World Health Organization, just by going out or switching on the treadmill and running, right?
That's crazy.
30% of the life depends on your lifestyle, if you can run. If I can maybe help onboard, of course, tens of millions of people, but a father lives, longer than he otherwise does. Somebody is able to live a better life. I think that's the mission of Zippy. I can then die peacefully and say that, what, Sunny, job well done.
That's a beautiful vision, and I feel that you should actually promote it somewhere and keep it as part of the company, because it's amazing, and it's a broad vision. It's a great vision, and probably you'll achieve it in the coming years as well. So that's all I can say. And apart from that, I think moving away from Zippy a bit, I just wanted to dive a little bit into entrepreneurship as well. So I had this question in mind, that what is the correlation between fitness, which you pursue on a day-to-day basis, and entrepreneurship, if there is any? Is there a correlation between both of them?
I think, I don't know, but I know this, that if you have a fit body and a fit mind, right, you tend to overextend yourself in more than many ways, right? Because you have this confidence on yourself. I think that's how the psychology plays on you. What is bodybuilding or what is fitness, right? You are crafting and changing yourself every day, right? You're working with what you have, and then you're trusting a process. You may not like that process. I don't like to run every day. I'll tell you, I don't like to lift weights every day, but I still do, because I have seen that process firsthand. And I know that there are bad days, there could be bad weeks, there could be bad months. But if you continue on this journey, continue to trust the process, if you have a heart at the right place, you will achieve what you have set out to achieve, and the universe will help you in mysterious ways, right? I think that mindset is core to entrepreneurship as well, because at least initially, or maybe even for a very long time, you're going to have far more bad days than good days. You're going to have far more stress than you possibly think you could kind of absorb, right? Every day is going to be a different challenge. You will challenge all your muscles, right? In ways that you have never known otherwise. If you're just doing a job and a corporate job, no matter how attractive and how aggressive that job even is, right? So I think maybe that plays a part, because that you can trust yourself, you can trust the process, and it just kind of gives you that good mental space to try out everything. I mean, just ask a runner after the run. They feel that they will conquer the world, right? They're kind of the endorphin rush and whatnot.
Endorphin rush, yeah, absolutely. And to end, I think I'll have a short rapid fire for you. So a couple of questions. So okay, so first question is indoor running versus outdoor running for you.
Both.
But if you have to choose one,
it's very difficult for me to choose one. I'll tell you, there are reasons for it. You really put me on a tough spot, but yeah. So let me answer. Maybe an outdoor run in that case.
Got it. Okay. Instant gratification for your workouts versus long-term gains.
Long-term gains for me.
Okay, so these are the two questions I had, and then probably I have a random question in mind, so I'm not sure if that's a proper question or not.
Go on.
Yeah. What do you feel about the Metaverse space? Is it going to go big in the next 10 years, or it's not going to go great?
I think it will go big, right? And the reason for this is very simple. I've kind of step back and look at things. Look, we are essentially spending a lot of our time in the internet, right? I mean, what you and I are currently doing is a conversation over internet, right? Now, what Metaverse essentially gives it perhaps is another dimension to it, right? It's more immersive. it's sort of more bad but addictive. And then there is possibly in some cases a bi-directional flow, right, of the value between the platform and the participant. Therefore, I would have only been skeptical of Metaverse if we were spending less time than last year on the internet, right? But we are not. We are spending more and more. Even if we forget Metaverse for a second, we are spending more time on Zoom calls. We are spending more time on social media platforms. If not Facebook, then on Instagram. If not on Instagram, then on Twitter. If not on Twitter, then on Discord. If not on Discord, then on Snapchat. But essentially, a significant portion of time is digital interaction, right? That is only going to grow. There is absolutely no evidence to show otherwise, right? That people are going to abandon all these systems. And it is with that background that I think that Metaverse has a great future, because it's just adding more dimensions to your otherwise already very engaged online lives.
And have you tried any of these decentralized metaverse platforms like Decentraland or something like that? Have you ever experimented?
Yeah. And so we've been. Yeah. So we have. I think as somebody who is also building a metaverse focused on runners, you always want to know, what's happening and learn from, other folks who are doing some good space. I think it's a day one or maybe or maybe T minus 10. Right. I mean, day 1 minus 10 days, we're sort of behind the start line itself. So these are nice, good experimentations, but they will only get refined in the days and months and years to come. Because what happens, and I take a lot of learning from the last kind of evolution at least in the enterprise tech. So when I started my career, I was dabbling into the space of cloud. And I'm talking about 2008-9, right? And every company, the consultant that I used to talk about and say that, you don't need a CD-ROM for a software installation. You don't need to buy your software, CD every year and upgrade it. You know what? You can buy it over the internet. Yeah. You don't need to buy servers, and you can pay every month. And people are, what? Is this possible? This is crazy. This won't happen. Why would I pay for the software monthly? Who would buy? Where will my server come? Oh, can I pay for monthly? But what would be the latency, right? But what was happening at that space, I realized as a consultant, right, that a lot of smart people and a lot of large companies, small companies were spending a lot of time on this. This was clunky. This was not working. But a lot of money was also moving in that space, right?
Correct.
VC investors, large companies were spending billions of dollars to acquire, some of these cloud native companies, right? And today, we can't imagine our life without cloud computing, right? 100%. Whether it's infrastructure, whether it's platform, whether it's software, right? And I think that is a big indicator of what is also going to happen to Web3 in general, right? A lot of smart people. I'm not trying to give myself a backhanded compliment, but a lot of people, smart people around the world, a lot of investors, a lot of VCs, a lot of startup folks are migrating, spending time on this. Money is flowing in. People are experimenting. That there will be a moment when this will be very clear that these are the winner applications. This is how it is going to evolve. So this is only possibly a question of when rather than if. So that's my take on it. When you have such a smart population of the world with deeper pockets trying to work on this, I'm sure it will produce something which will become then very something that we will all in the hindsight see, it was possible. It just made sense to do it.
Superb perspective. I think I haven't heard such a perspective till now on the metaverse and its future and Web3. And I think on that note, I'll end the episode. And I just feel that fitness and tech coming together is going to create a revolution. Essentially, the move to earn thing is going to break barriers, and I'm excited about it. And I wish you, sir, all the best with Zippy, and I hope to use it soon because I am very excited to actually be a part of any move to earn platform which is coming up right now. So on that note, sir, I'll end the podcast and I'll definitely have another episode with you to talk further because we have lots of questions left, but we have limited time and probably, and I'll release it on podcast on LinkedIn and other platforms as well. So yeah, That's it. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Divyan. It was my pleasure. The questions were sharp, and it's always great interacting with you. And as I said, just call me Sunny. Makes me feel 10 years older than what I am.